Massive, the Bitcoin speech is really taking off now. Donald Trump confirms that new all-time highs will be reached because everyone knows he's going to make the US the new crypto hotspot. Ultra bullish, what's going on here again? He adds to it and says that he has signed an executive order to end the fight against Bitcoin and crypto, and here, to finally kick Joe Biden to the curb, because there's a massive attack on Bitcoin happening here. Now we see that suddenly the anti-Bitcoin and anti-crypto agenda is coming to an end. We see that there is a massive opening up in the USA. And here, many points are addressed. It's not just about Bitcoin, it's also about the Department of Government Efficiency, the dividend that is planned, where a lot of money will probably flow into Bitcoin again. We're going to take a look at the whole speech because it really has a lot to offer. And it's not the first time that Donald Trump has spoken so positively about Bitcoin. He has also said before that he wants to make the US the crypto hotspot. But we also have to look at the whole thing a bit critically, because even with all the bullishness and so on, and when Donald Trump comes out with some slogans, wow, thanks to him, Bitcoin has now climbed to new highs. And what do I know? We have to be clear that up to now, there is still no strategic Bitcoin reserve. There are even rumors that the Bitcoin Crypto Council in the USA is to be deposed again. I also reported on that a few days ago. That means he's talking ultra bullish here. But the bottom line is that we still don't see the blatant things, like that a Southern Wealth Fund has now included Bitcoin here, or that the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve is now a done deal. These are all things that need to be evaluated. These are all things that need to be talked about. But in reality, not much has happened yet. Still, this situation is explosive because perhaps most powerful president in the world stands here on stage and talks for several minutes. He's talking about Bitcoin and crypto. Check out these statements here. Just bullish.
Jones Industrial Average is up 2,200 points, and Bitcoin has set multiple all-time record highs because everyone knows that I'm committed to making America the crypto capital. We want to stay at the forefront of everything, and one of them is crypto, and Miami seems to be the center of the action, come to think of it, and maybe it'll stay there.
He clearly takes the credit here. He's saying very clearly, hey, what we've seen, the new all-time highs, that's all because of him. But one must also be honest and say that the sell-off, one could say, can also be traced back to him because it had, again, to do with the whole customs issue. That has to do with the fact that the market might have been a bit disappointed because not as much came through as people had hoped. But he says everyone knows that he wants to make the USA the #1 hotspot, and that's why it's going to keep going up from here. And it's pretty wild that Donald Trump is positioning himself like this, seeing the Bitcoin market as a sign of his success. That means Donald Trump, we already know from the past that the stock market has always been very closely correlated with Donald Trump. And that Donald Trump sees the stock market as a sign of his success. But that has changed in this election period. He now sees not only the stock market as a success scenario for himself, but he also sees the Bitcoin market here as a signal of success. And that's really interesting because we also have the incentives here. That means Donald Trump has Bitcoin, his family has Bitcoin, Eric Trump has Bitcoin, the whole administration team has Bitcoin, and he's driving the entire Bitcoin policy. That means he's already got an interest in pumping up the Bitcoin price. So it's not like Donald Trump is super Bitcoin friendly or ultra altruistic or something like that. No, he probably just has it himself. Big Bitcoin positions. His whole administration team has big Bitcoin positions. And that just makes even more sense to pump up Bitcoin and crypto. It's worth mentioning that he's not talking about Bitcoin capital or anything like that. He's always referring to crypto capital. That means crypto tends to include stable coins. That's also what a lot of people criticize, that Donald Trump doesn't really have that much focus here on cryptocurrencies or on Bitcoin. But it's mainly about pushing stable coins forward. And with stable coins, you can push the US dollar forward again. And that's the story too. It is not Bitcoin that is crucial here, but the decisive factor is still the US dollar. And Bitcoin is simply a tool that is being used to further strengthen the US dollar in order to bring more investment capital into the USA. He also says that Miami could become a center for Bitcoin adoption here in the US. And actually, if you're really honest, you have to say that if he really wants to make the USA into crypto capital, then he really needs to sign that executive order soon and say, hey folks, we're going all in on Bitcoin. I don't know why he's waiting so long. I mean, there are also people like Scaramucci who say, okay, this is done to gain more support here on a political level so that there aren't any disputes later on and the thing might get disbanded or something like that. You never really know. Maybe it's actually a good thing to wait a bit and not rush into it too quickly. Going all in on Bitcoin here. But that's already the first bullish statement from Donald Trump. But that was far from everything.
I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and to end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto. We ended that war totally. That war is over. They were very hostile toward them until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did was they liked indicting people, but they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody was smart that believed in that, and there were a lot of people believing it. Anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they actually thought that I was doing it, they say, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry.
And that's exactly the opposite of the politics here in the EU. Donald Trump says he wants to be right at the front. He wants to be the front runner in every new technology, whether it's AI or even Bitcoin. And he clearly sees Bitcoin as a breakthrough technology. And that's why he wants to be the front runner here. And that's new, because it's different here than in the EU, where you just say, okay, let's let the US test it out first, see how it works. And if that works for them, maybe in about 10 years or so, let's start with the internet or let's start with Bitcoin. But then it's too late. Then the whole monetization process is finished. And that's what's happening here right now, where we're also massively losing prosperity. It's not like Bitcoin is optional or anything. I don't know if Donald Trump is going that far yet. But Bitcoin isn't optional, just like the automobile isn't optional. The internet wasn't optional either. I mean, you can live without the internet and without a car, but then you just can't be here. Top-notch economic productivity. Because everyone else is just way more efficient than you. And he says here, there are 150 million people using this whole thing, Bitcoin, crypto, and so on. And they also want to have a president here who will push the whole thing forward. That's why a lot of people voted for him, because the smart folks know you have to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, this is obviously a bit of self-praise and all. He's just pulling out his ego and stuff like that. He says he doesn't do things for political reasons. Well, he didn't do it because he wanted to make any political statements or anything like that. But he does it because it's simply the right thing to do. And I have to give him credit for that. The right thing is to push Bitcoin forward. The right thing is to be open to Bitcoin. But that still doesn't mean that Donald Trump is ultimately speaking the truth. Could still be the case that he just wants to push his own bags and stuff. We also have to say, if he's doing the right thing and standing up for what's right, then why is he making these Donald Trump meme coins? Why is he getting involved in all these shitcoin stories and stuff? You really have to question that critically. So yeah, that sounds super bullish. And that's exactly what every Bitcoin freak and every Bitcoin lover wants to hear. And I think it's great what he's saying here. But you have to honestly say that Donald Trump is really good at sweet-talking people. And here you have to be careful not to get carried away with the whole thing. Fall into the Donald Trump shit show. So, like I said, everything sounds bullish, but still, we have to stay critical here. Because what's way more important than what he says is what he actually does. And when we look at what he does, he hits. Meme coins are out, and there's still no strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's still no fixed Southern wealth fund that includes Bitcoin. Okay, you could say everything is in process. Maybe it can't happen that quickly. You also have to honestly say that Ross Ulbricht has been pardoned. There's an official executive order stating that there won't be any CBDCs. There's an executive order that ends Operation Jockpoint 2.0, which was the fight against Bitcoin and crypto. You have to give him that. So he has done something, he has delivered. A lot of people want him to deliver even more, and many folks might just be a bit impatient. And I have to say again, hey folks, you really need to be patient. On the political level, things just don't move that quickly. I mean, it's just crazy how fast Donald Trump is moving forward here. And if the strategic Bitcoin reserve doesn't come for another 5 months, then just be glad you can still front run the whole thing here. But if you take the statements here, then it is almost confirmed that the strategic Bitcoin reserve is coming. If Donald Trump keeps his word and, let's say, actually follows through with his actions. But that's the big question, whether he'll actually back up his words with actions. Feel free to drop a comment below about what you think. Whether he'll actually follow through with actions or if it's just all talk. Because a crypto capital, a capital of the world for crypto, can't exist without a strategic Bitcoin reserve. If you create a strategic Bitcoin reserve here and start buying Bitcoin on a massive scale, that's fine with me. Here they even print their own money to buy Bitcoin. Okay, then I agree with the statement that they are hyping up the crypto here. But if you just do a bit of digital asset legislation here and issue an executive order that there are no CBDCs, then you are not yet a crypto stronghold. Then this might be a really cool place where Bitcoin can flourish to some extent. But for a Bitcoin stronghold, I really need some kind of savings plan that works. Somehow, there has to be a constant flow of new Bitcoin coming in. You really need a solid Bitcoin strategy here, something like what Michael Saylor is doing. I mean, there were also the meetings with Eric Trump, Michael Saylor, Mar-a-Lago, and so on. Maybe there's a lot being planned behind the scenes. You never know. We need to keep an eye on it.
And saving taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every single day. And there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens. And
I also found that very, very interesting in the speech. So yesterday we had the story where I made a video saying there's supposed to be a Doge dividend, like a $5,000 stimulus check for all households here in the U.S. Yesterday it wasn't officially confirmed. There was only a rumor here on Twitter. Did anyone say, hey, what if we do a dividend like this? Then Elon Musk said, yeah, he'll check in with Donald Trump about it. And now we see that the two have already spoken. So you can see how quickly they're moving. They've already talked to each other. And Donald Trump is already confirming that right in his speech. And it's pretty crazy that we now have confirmation that this might actually be happening. And there are already considerations here about how exactly that's supposed to happen. So 20% of that from the Dodger funds, where they just uncovered all the fraud stuff, is supposed to be used to pay off debts. Another 20% is supposed to be paid out as a dividend. Fraudgram uncovered here. This is supposed to be used here to pay off debts. Another 20% is supposed to be used to be paid out as a dividend. And I've said it before, the last time there were such huge dividends, right? Back then, it was called a stimulus package or helicopter money, where during the COVID times, everyone just got like $1,200 or $1,400. I'm not sure how much it was anymore. We saw that a lot of the money flowed into the stock market and into Bitcoin. And then we also saw the massive all-time highs shortly after that. I mean, it wasn't just because of the stimulus packages. It was also because the central bank was at a 0% interest rate policy. Because back then there was QE and all the macroeconomic factors, they were just totally risk-on. And that's why the stock market, Bitcoin, and crypto markets have shot up massively. But a lot of this stimulus package is going to flow back into the stock market and into Bitcoin. That's a really, really good sign for Bitcoin that new money is coming into circulation, which can potentially be accumulated in Bitcoin. On the other hand, there is a certain danger because the whole thing is inflationary. So that means it could put even more pressure on inflation. There were the Fed minutes released yesterday at the central bank in the US, but nothing exciting happened there, or something like that. That's why I didn't really comment on it today, since nothing special happened. They just kind of said, yeah, we need to keep an eye on inflation. But they didn't announce that the interest rates are going to go down or anything, or that the interest rates are going to shoot up massively, or that there are going to be any complete surprises. The current plan is that maybe there might be a rate cut, maybe two, or maybe even no rate cuts at all. But there won't be any big jumps or anything like that. We're not going to drop the rates by 100 basis points again, or something like that. Right now, there are no signs of that unless some unexpected events or something like that happen. Then the money printing spree could start up again at any time. We just need to keep an eye on this, folks. If you're feeling ultra hyper bullish right now, I'll drop a link down below for you. 21 Bitcoin, where you can easily buy Bitcoin safely. Definitely recommended, both for beginners and for advanced users. There are a ton of really cool features here. My favorite feature here is the auto wallet transfer, where you can directly transfer Bitcoin to your hardware wallet. Let me know what you think about the speech. See you soon. See you later. Peace out.